Hi everybody, this is Jeff with Zama carburetors, and today I'd like to talk about carburetors where you have a no prime issue, where you can't pull any fuel into the primer bulb. So we call this primer bulb, we refer to it on our parts list as a syringe, but anytime a carburetor will not pull fuel into the primer bulb, usually 99% of the time it's because of a check valve. A check valve, if you look to your right here, these three little black dots, I have a dime here to give you some idea of the size comparison. These little black dots here are what we call a check valve. They're not considered a serviceable part. They are real tiny, made out of a rubber-like material. We also use a clear plastic material. Check valve, I don't have any of these. They would be really difficult to see on camera, but they're the same size as these black ones. They're almost impossible to see inside the carburetor. Check valves are located in the body of the carburetor, in the primer base assembly here. So anytime a carburetor doesn't prime, 99% of the time, one of these check valves will be stuck open. There's not really a test you can do that will help determine if it's in the primer base assembly or in the body of the carburetor. So what I recommend is soaking both the primer base assembly and the carburetor body in gasoline. And I've already removed a couple of the screws just for time purpose. But you'll want to dismantle the carburetor. Take out these screws here. And what you want to do is place the primer base assembly and the body of the carburetor in gasoline and just let it soak for about an hour or 2 hours. After that, you'll remove it and let it air dry. So I'm going to remove the primer base assembly. I'm going to move the gaskets, diaphragm, set them to the side. So on this particular carburetor, this is a P27 carburetor. So you've got a check valve here. You've got a check valve here. Now you can take a piece of hose and blow or suck on it and try to determine if that check valve's working or not. That's a difficult thing to do for me. I have a lot of trouble doing that, only because sometimes getting the hose flush against the carburetor and not pulling outside air and getting a false positive or a false reading. So I always just go to soaking the carburetor. That way it doesn't cost anything. It's a fairly accurate way to repair this. So what I do, I'm going to lay that primer base assembly to the side. You also, on the body of the carburetor, you have a check valve here, inside here, at the nozzle down in here. Let me flip it over. This nozzle here, you have a check valve in the nozzle assembly. You're then going to remove the metering cover. Gaskets and diaphragms also. Remove those. Now, I said 99% of the time a check valve will be stuck open is what's causing a carburetor to no prime. There is always a chance that one of these diaphragms here or the gasket, this diaphragm here, could be tore. That would cause it not to prime also. But usually, I've never seen that. I've had it happen one time in the last several years. But as a whole, most of the time, it's a check valve stuck open. So then you'll want to remove your inlet needle, metering lever, spring, all that. So I'm going to put that over here to the side and just let that fall out. Remove your spring. So then here you've got a check valve here, also a check valve here. So by soaking these, this should help to correct the issue. So I'll drop them in there. I'll let them soak for an hour or two. After they've soaked, I'll remove them, let them air dry. Do not blow any compressed air on them. Excuse me. And once they've air dried, reassemble them and see if that doesn't correct the issue. Now, you may need to soak it more than once, but usually soaking it for an hour or two will help to float that check valve back up to where it needs to be and start operating properly. I hope this has helped you. Now, I should say, on the rotary carburetor, it will always, most of the time, if it's not priming, will be in this primer base assembly right here. There's no need to soak the body of this carburetor because there's really not any check valves that would cause the no prime situation. So the primer base assembly more than likely would be the one I would only soak that part on a rotary carburetor such as this. Now on a W19, where you have a simple start, you have your start circuit and your primer base assembly, you'll want to soak all three pieces. Dismantle it, remove gaskets, diaphragm, soak all three pieces. And that should help to correct the problem. I hope this has helped you today. A no prime issue, the easiest way to fix it is by taking the carburetor apart, soaking it in gasoline or gasoline and oil. This particular mixture is 40-to-1. That should correct any no prime issue moving forward. When you go and buy, let's say, a primer base assembly thinking that's going to fix your problem, that's only a 50% chance that it's the primer base assembly on diaphragm carburetors like this, because it could be in the body of the carburetor as well. So soaking it really is the best way to correct that problem first before moving to replacing parts or anything like that. And again, on the rotary carburetor, the primer base assembly would only be the part you need to soak on it. So I hope that's helped you today. Please stay safe. Also, in the coming months or coming weeks, I'll be putting a newsletter on the website, publishing a newsletter. It'll be by, future issues will be by subscription only. If you find the first one interesting and would like to subscribe, I'll be putting in more helpful tips and hints in that newsletter to let service technicians, guys that work on these at home in the garage, make it easier on you and help provide a little more information than what I do online here at the YouTube channel. Thanks again, and please stay safe.